All right, so you have this FTX thing going down, yet another crypto exchange, could be a scam. Who knows? I don't know. I don't have the inside information. Something I warned against about 5 years ago when Bitcoin was around 17,000. You can look at the video. I said, approach with extreme caution. I said that crypto is highly speculative. The use case for crypto is constantly changing. So they said initially crypto was valuable because it was an easy way to transact with Bitcoin specifically. And then it became too slow, so they changed it to it's a store of value. So they keep shifting the reasoning behind the use case for it. Now, I'm not saying that blockchain technology is no good. I think it is good. I think it has a certain application. But what that exactly is, I think is going to be highly niche, at least for the foreseeable future. Anyhow, so I warn people against the crypto religion, if you will. You have to be very careful of any investment, even if you're 100% sure about a particular investment. You should put no more than 10% of your investment capital in that single investment, because you can't predict all the what could happen in the future. There's too many variables, especially when you're looking at cutting edge technology. So, for example, during the dot-com era where I grew up as a developer, there were lots and lots of companies, and if you had invested in the vast majority of them, you probably lost all your money. It's just the way it is. It's a new thing. There were some winners like Amazon and Apple. Well, Apple was pre.net, .com. But there are a few winners here and there, but mostly losers. That's the problem. So blockchain will come into itself at some point. It will turn into something viable and it will be usable. But who's to say which token, if any of the current tokens, will make it? Or will the whole blockchain crypto world fall to pieces, or fall into place rather, like the dot-com era, where the dot-com became a huge thing, of course, as we know. But most of the players back then failed. So with that in mind, I warned people in my video. I said, Bitcoin was like 17,000 change. I said, it's had a huge run up. Who knows where it's going to go? And I said, be very careful with that. So then it proceeded to drop down to like 3,000 a coin or something. And then it shot up recently. It shot up, well, in the last 5 years. So if we look at this chart here, this is Bitcoin today. I'm recording this November 14th. In the last 5 years, you're up 87%. Not bad. That's in the last 5 years. Now you say to yourself, yeah, but if I would have bought here, I'd be up double my money. That's true if you would have bought 2020, or maybe you were lucky and you bought here. But the thing is, timing the market is literally impossible. You'll get some right, but most of the time, 51% of the time, you get it wrong. So you have to just assume that you're not going to be one of the lucky ones who's going to know when to sell, when to buy and when to sell. I think Warren Buffett is right. He said that you never sell. Now, that's a general rule. Of course, there's occasions where you do sell. But anyway, so look at it. Look at this. Look at this. Past 5 years, you're up 87%, which is pretty good. Now, at the time, I said, you know what? I would just buy Apple. So if we look at the Apple chart, past 5 years, you have 247%. Now, the advantage of Apple is that it will probably never go to zero, not for at least 20 years, I would imagine. Apple is just such a powerhouse. One of those rules I learned in investing a long time ago is that you buy the strongest company in a weak sector. Let me say that again. When investing, if you're going to invest in individual stocks, which you should do very rarely, normally just buy an index, you should invest in the strongest company in a weak sector. So, for example, Apple. Right now, the technology sector is getting a beating. They've all taken a beating. Meta and Google and Amazon, Microsoft. Apple hasn't taken a beating yet. I don't know if it's going to take a beating, much of a beating, simply because it is the strongest player in this current weak sector, the sector being the technology space. And so when you look at your investments, my thinking is that you got to think like Buffett, who's one of the most successful of all time. Just buy for the long term and stick to fundamentals. So here you go. Apple, if you would have bought 5 years ago and just forgot about it, you'd be up 247%. If you would have bought BTC, you'd be up 87%. The good thing about Apple, you don't have to worry about losing all your money in a situation like FTX or the equivalent. It's very safe and secure. So a couple lessons to take from this video is I would suggest never putting more than 5-10% maybe of your investing money into a particular investment, whether it be Apple or Bitcoin, because you can never account for all the variables. Generally speaking, for most people, or just about everybody, just due to probabilities, I would just buy index funds, dollar cost average. An index fund, just look it up what it is. It's basically a little piece of many companies. So you go with the market and dollar cost average because you can never time the market and you can't foresee what might happen in the future. For me, FTX is just another expected thing. It's an expected thing in any new industry. The crypto industry is new. We'll see how it shakes out. My inclination, and I could be wrong, but my inclination is that it will end up being a much more niche thing than you would think. I remember back in the 1990s during the dot-com era, everybody thought that web-based video was going to be huge. And turned out to be huge with YouTube, right? But there were so many other players at the time. Real Networks comes to mind. They all went bust. So YouTube, even Google Video didn't go anywhere. They had to buy YouTube. So you never know who's going to be the winner. So in the crypto space, right now, it's getting hammered. If I were to jump into the crypto space, and I'm not telling you what to do, I'm telling you what I would do if I want to get into it, which I don't personally. I would wait for the hammer to fall hard, total carnage, when everybody hates crypto. Then when it sort of settles for like 6 months or a year, where it's kind of bumping along the bottom and it's kind of quiet, that's when you get into the game. That is when you get into the game. Now, I don't know. Even now, let's say you assume, like, how much bigger can it get, right? Like from here at 16,000 change, the height was like 60 something thousand. Okay, you might get a double, triple on a highly speculative asset where everything is up in the air. Looks like there's lots of fraud going on. I don't know how much there is. Whereas you can look at Apple. What do you think? Apple is more likely to triple, I would say, in the next 3 to 10 years, well, 5 to 10 years than crypto. And no headaches, no headaches, and a small dividend.